Hello everyone, it's my pleasure to be speaking with Ricky Jacob today. Ricky, welcome.
Yeah, thank you Mukund for having me.
And my pleasure. Ricky is the founder CEO of Paysack. Let me tell you that he's someone that gives me a serious complex when I look at all his degrees. You know, I used to think that I'm qualified in terms of going to different schools and colleges around the world, but this guy beats me hollow. So why don't we talk a little bit about your journey and how you came about Paysack?
Sure, I think it was a fairly long journey with lots of different spaces and ideas that we had kind of looked at. I was actually leading the Google Maps data team in Hyderabad. So I spent a couple of years there, and then I'd actually moved to Ireland to do my PhD in mobile location-based services. So that was again in the area of geo maps, smartphones with GPS, etc. So I think that 5 years in Ireland kind of changed a lot of things for me actually. Until then, definitely Google was a great place to work, no doubt. So even during my 5 years, I thought, I'll come back and look for a great opportunity in Google, again in the maps side of things.
I know you have a very fascinating story of, working on many ideas, right? I mean, that's incredible. Now, seemingly what you're doing today is not directly related to, the geo-mapping stuff.
Definitely.
So what is the story there?
So I think, yeah, that was again an interesting bit. Like I said, moving away from the, pitching the government kind of thing, we looked at the consumer side of it, and typically enterprises, in fact. So we conceptualized a product called as Common Trip. So the idea was it was a carpooling app for enterprises. So employees who are traveling to a common office or tech park could connect with fellow employees or fellow members working in other companies in the same tech park, connecting them because there's a trust element of being a verified employee of a company. So that was the idea, and we were fortunate to get selected for, again, it got us back to Ireland for another 3 months there, for an accelerator in sustainable transportation. So we had 9 other companies, 3 from India, including us, and we had companies from Rwanda, New York, Russia, and Venezuela. And we actually had this whole unique pitch of being a product focusing at the enterprise space. And soon after the accelerator, when we came back to India, we took this idea and went to various CEOs in Chennai, and we were pitching that to a CEO where we said we'd use this as a travel benefit to an employee. But it was around that time we kind of understood that the whole benefits thing is very fragmented. There's no one size fits all. And it was at that point we actually realized one of the key benefits that I got back way back in 2005 as a meal voucher still existed in 2015, 10 years later.
That's right.
So that got us thinking, while you had someone like a Paytm solving digital payments for consumers, why doesn't a Paytm for enterprise exist? And that is when we actually started our journey of Paysack. And like I mentioned, one of the other startups who was in Ireland with us, the co-founder there joined us and is heading our technology today. He's an ex-senior engineer with Amazon. So he brings in the kind of expertise we need to build a scalable system like what we're doing today. So he was definitely on board when we pitched this to him, and it was around that time we took this idea and took it to market. We were fortunate to get a few angel investors backing us. We went through an accelerator here in Hyderabad, and so today we have Paysack. From an early idea of being a mobile payments, we are currently a corporate card that automates your expense report. So any kind of reimbursements, any kind of prepaid tax-saving benefits like meal or fuel, all of that can be carried out from one single prepaid card.
Wonderful.
And a combination of our app.
So do you run into any banking regulations or anything?
Exactly. Yeah. So even when we started off, we were quick to realize that one of the key things that we needed was a prepaid payment instrument license to run a product like this, which the current day wallet companies have, or if you have the backing of the bank. So from a regulatory point, we definitely needed either someone like a Paytm backing us from a wallet license perspective, or a bank. So we didn't want to go down the merchant acquisition path, so we through the country out of visa, connected with a bank in Mumbai. So we started with DCB Bank, where from a regulatory and a card issuance point of view,
they back you.
Out. Yeah, so because otherwise we can't launch a product like this in India.
Correct.
So that was one of them.
That is great. So if I were to ask you, for your main customer base, which are enterprises,
Sure.
Can you mention a couple of clear value props for them that they can gain from Paysack?
Yeah. So a couple of key customers today, including Geojit and Experion, they were using for the last 10 years, at least they were using the paper-based meal coupons for the tax-saving benefits that they provide their employees.
Correct.
So they've now moved 100% to us and are providing these benefits of a digital card to all of their employees.
Nice.
So from a company perspective, it removes the whole paperwork and manual process of manually disbursing a coupon, handing it out to a person where it could get lost. If an employee loses it, there's no unique identifier on the coupon, etc. And I think it also helped that the new policy from RBI came where the paper coupon needs to go. So that kind of helped us push Paysack to companies who were using the paper coupon as one of the benefits. So our whole idea is while we're getting that across to the company, we're also telling them that there are additional things which today you're doing using pen and paper based claims. For example, the same company has fuel reimbursements. So additionally they can move that. Exactly. So additionally they can move that to our card whenever they are comfortable, having understood the product, the way it works. So
is there a market for this product outside India or in Southeast Asia or something, or is it purely Indian?
No. So actually, the reimbursement and claims space is huge. In India, just the travel expense and benefit space is going to be about $24 billion, which is, and the payments happens across, accommodation, flight, local travel, etc. And I mean, it's a common phenomenon across the globe. While a country in the Middle East might not have tax-saving benefits because they don't have income tax in the first place, expense claims where a business has to document expenses is a thing which is common across any country in the world. Any business, as part of their audit, they need to kind of carry out and capture these receipts. So today all of that happens using pen and paper and physical paper being stored.
Right. So it's a clear case of digitalizing, your payment and reimbursement processes.
Exactly.
So that comes back to a question. So in terms of Bombay, being the financial capital, US as a fine fintech solution.
Sure.
So what makes you want to run your business out of Kochi?
A lot of heart and a small bit of mind as well with regards to that decision. We definitely. As we started off, we're thinking, we'll be based out of Bangalore. We'd in fact explored the NASCOM space there, and that was the idea. When we, set out, we thought, because Bangalore has the density of companies, the ecosystem is stronger. So as a startup, we need that initial traction to kind of get the momentum going as a young company. And I think probably to do with, we definitely, wanted to be based here. Our core team, in fact. A development design team was all from Cochin. So, and at that point, to be honest, we weren't necessarily well funded to kind of move to a fairly comparatively expensive city like Bangalore to be based out of. So it was more of, the reasoning of, to take pride in having built a company out of Cochin, and definitely a lot of mind with regards to, from Cochin offers. From a value for money perspective, at least I think it's definitely as an entrepreneur it helps. There's no doubt. Yes, there are some cons, like I mentioned, from a stronger ecosystem. The density of companies, being an enterprise product. We would need more. Have access to more companies if we were locally based in Bangalore. So I think we had to kind of take all of this into consideration. But rather than relocating the team, and since we were early in the journey, so we had a certain amount of development from a product point as well to be done. So we thought maybe at some stage we'll get some sales consultant and team based in Bangalore as compared to having the tech team move there.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think that is a good strategy. So how does your family, this is maybe personal.
Sure.
How does your family view you as an entrepreneur, right? I mean, you have ups and downs, and you have different challenges. And I know you indicated that they fully back your journey. But how is tell me, how has your family helped you?
Oh yeah, I mean, like definitely as an entrepreneur, or when you're building a company, it's the team that builds your company with
Absolutely.
you. It's not a solo effort. Although I'm sitting here talking to you about Paysack, you and I would know to build a company. It's all teamwork, from building a company as well, and definitely from a emotional and moral support. You need a whole lot of that as an
Correct.
entrepreneur. Definitely the family plays a big role, and for sure mine has. So my parents, to start with, were not sure why you're leaving a potentially well-paying job. You could find a better paying job anywhere you'd like, to kind of do something like this where you're stuck for cash, and most you have more downs than ups early on, at least. A fair bit of your travel, your journey in the space is like that. And I think even my wife, she's been very supportive. We have a 4-year-old girl, so probably I try my best to give as much time as I would want. I know I'm falling short, but I think that's where the support of a family and wife comes into play, where
Absolutely.
she ensures that my daughter, for example, doesn't feel that I'm not. So some of the things that I do would be I make it a point to not miss out on some of the key events in her life, because that's the last thing.
That is because you have flexibility.
Yeah, I think that's the pro and con. Yeah, that's definitely. Thanks for pointing out. I think that's the pro and con of running a business. That flexibility of taking a couple of days off in between to kind of spend time,
Correct.
and then probably working the weekend away. So that kind of flexibility is something which is what, and I think that's the reason why my wife and others have been able to appreciate, is the fact that although the days when you're busy and held up, you're like you have no time at all, but then the flexibility of
it makes up for it.
Makes up for it in terms of flexibility.
Super. Well, thank you for sharing that personal experience. One of the things that I wanted to understand is that I met you first when you did a pitch at the NASSCOM's 10,000 Startups, and I'm glad that you have come a long way since then. Can you tell us how NASSCOM's 10,000 Startup initiatives and the incubator have helped you?
Sure. Yeah, I think definitely when we came into NASSCOM, we didn't have a product. We had the early bits of some coding done. We are working out of our homes, and team working out of different locations. But as a company, especially when your product is an enterprise play,
Right.
You can't be as informal as probably a social media consumer product that you could roll out.
Right.
So we knew that we need to be based in a space that helps us move from recognition, more from building the trust and credibility from our potential customers' point of view. I think in all those places, I think NASSCOM definitely played a huge role. In fact, even connecting us with mentors, potential customers, who would give advice on some of the things. I think in all of this, NASSCOM played a key role, and I think in Cochin, at least, one of the better co-working spaces, being located inside of InfoPark, obviously gives us an added advantage when we are speaking to companies.
Correct. You get a brand, and you can also
Definitely.
attract good employees potentially.
Exactly. Yeah,
inside
employees.
the
That's one of the
campus.
other key things. When we are looking to hire, you can't say come to flat number 12 in this apartment for an interview. So the kind of infrastructure as well that NASSCOM provides to early stage companies like us is incredible for the price.
Super. No, this is great. So I know that this entrepreneurship has ups and downs, and so how do you manage your stress, and how do you take care of your health?
So I would definitely love to play more basketball than I literally don't play sport as of now. I'm not able to get that time out to kind of go and play. That's something I would definitely like to do. But given an opportunity, I would walk. Probably I would walk up the 14-story steps to the apartment and things like that. So Evenings, in fact, when I go back home, I spend considerable time playing with my daughter in the field, kicking some football, and those are that helps as a stress buster and to keep some level of fitness. Definitely, like I mentioned, I would want to do some more, running or playing sport. During my ODQ days, in fact, I did it to, talk to customers. I did some running, so I think I would definitely want that to come back and carry out some more.
Super, super. So, where do you see Paysack 5 years from now, Ricky?
Yeah. So today, I think based on the customers that we have attracted, we possibly looked at as a prepaid employee benefit card. We definitely already more than that from an offering point of view. So we want to get that across to the customers and potential future customers. So I think in 5 years we want to be recognized as India's most flexible corporate card for employee benefits and reimbursements.
So how would you differentiate yourself from your current competitors, right? I mean, how would you? What is special about your product that makes it flexible, more flexible?
Sure. Yeah. So I think we definitely have some very well funded and backed companies who have about 200 plus employees as a direct competitors. But I think the way we have built out the product or the way we had visualized the product was to cater to a much broader use case from a company perspective. So, like most of the competitors that we have today looks at a prepaid benefit point of view. It's always company money that's going into an employee and the employee spends. So in our case, it gives the flexibility of, it can be used as a cash advance account. It could be used where the employee loads money and spends and makes a claim, and this card doubles up as a settlement account. You can also do, say, small cash-based claims. Some of the companies you spoke to, they have value for all of this, but then they said, okay, what happens to submit claims for, say, a rickshaw ride or a small petty expense, which is a paper-based claim. So we are kind of, we have within our platform, you can integrate those small spends as well. So we don't need to go outside the system for, few of the things where it caters to a whole lot of things. Most of our competitors, in fact, have specific use case and they've attracted a good amount of customers. But I think our kind of flexibility of how it can be used, I think that's the keyword which we want to kind of take it to our companies, because although everyone is pitching digital, India, still runs on, 80+% cash. So we need to kind of be flexible enough to cater to some of the use cases of, cash-based spends as well into this. So it's a habit-forming thing, right? So
super.
So we build that product.
So Ricky, I've really enjoyed our conversation.
Same here.
And it is, I'm really glad to see, someone like you, being at it. Now, being an entrepreneur and, growing as an entrepreneur. So if I were to leave or if I were to end this meeting with, you sharing one piece of advice to the audience, what would that be?
So yeah, I think one keyword that comes into mind as an entrepreneur, which I think everyone who thinks, or wishes to be an entrepreneur, would be the word perseverance. Never give up. Some people, they would get too attracted or too attached to the idea that they never want to, they want to hold on to it no matter what, and eventually burn out and stop.
Correct.
So, as an entrepreneur, do understand that, it's not about building a product and thinking that this is what the market wants and trying to just sell that, although, there might not necessarily be a market for that. So at that point, you need to kind of, think rational and try to, detach yourself from the idea and evolve the product into something different, which could be, the one that companies value or, they would pay for. Correct. So I think that's one of the things, it's probably a life lesson as well, I think. Although I have a PhD, to be honest, a typical backbencher. So, my teachers were shocked to know that I went on to do my PhD. I think it's about that, motivation to, do things and, to achieve from a personal point, different, you have your different visions. But I think, again, as a takeaway, the key thing there would be, to never give up and, always, try harder and persevere. And definitely there, things would work out for you someday.
Thank you. And, let's end with a great piece of advice there. Perseverance is key, but don't be hung up on your ideas.
It's true.
Right? Be ready to pivot on it till you find where a customer is willing to pay, till you find an idea where you can find paying customers, and this is great. And perseverance is key. Thank you,
Thank you.
Ricky.
Thank
I really
you.
appreciate
Okay.
your time.